Hi viewers, it's yet another day. Today we'll look at something in expressive arts. But before we look at something in expressive arts, it's important that you know my name, and Ian Hakalinda, a grade 6 teacher at Fountain School. So in today's lesson in expressive arts, we'll look at something interesting. Now, before that, it is important that we, stretch back our memories to look at something that we, discussed. So, last time we looked at football, which is a game. So, we said in football, we said the other name for football is soccer. And we said in a soccer game, there are 11 players, people who play this game. There are 11 on each side of each team. Altogether, they add up to 22. And we said somebody who presides the game or who controls or who officiates, we said is called a referee. So from there, we also looked at an area where soccer game is played. We said soccer game is played, in an area which is called a pitch. So now today, we'll continue looking at different games. So I'm inviting you to make sure participate and enjoy the lesson of today. So today we'll look at netball. So for us to understand much more about netball, we need to describe it. So netball, it is a game that is played by 7 players on each side. So if we say on one team there are 7 players and on the other team there are 7 players, since we can say a netball game is played between 2 teams, adding up to 14. So from there we can say this game is played, or it takes about 60 minutes. A netball game takes 60 minutes. So if it is done in minutes of 60, hence we can say a netball game takes about 1 hour. Then we can also look at somebody who presides. I'm using the term presides, right? I'm using the word presides, also officiates. And another word is controls. So sometimes teachers may use the word presides. You may be asked to say, who presides a netball game? So at the same time, somebody can use the word officiates. Who officiates the netball game? At the same time, other people may use the word controls. Who controls the netball game? So the person who presides, officiates, or controls the netball game is called an umpire. Is called an umpire. I'll repeat that so that you understand. The person who officiates, presides, or controls is called an umpire. Here, there's a difference between the one that starts with M, alright? But the one we were focusing much is the one that starts with U. An umpire is a person who officiates the netball game. So from there, we can now say there are skills, just like we looked at previously in the last lesson under football. Even in netball, there are some skills that are involved. What are these skills? Number one, we can say now skills. Skills in a netball game. Skills in a netball game. Number one skill is passing. Passing is the first skill. The second skill is shooting. Alright? Shooting is also another skill that is involved in a netball game. The third one is receiving. Receiving is also among the skills that are involved in a netball game. Perhaps we can look at a number of skills, but today I just want to focus on 4. So the fourth skill that is used in a netball game is landing. Landing skill. Alright, so someone may ask a question to say, now, what does it mean when you say passing? How can you describe passing in netball? So passing, this one involves how a player, is giving the ball to another person. So passing is a skill that is involved in a netball game, which involves passing the ball to another person. You don't just throw the ball anyhow. There is a skill that you need to acquire, you who is interested in a netball game. So we are saying passing involves throwing the ball to another person. Then shooting. When we say shooting as a skill in netball, this shooting involves on how you are going to score the ball. Alright? So when the ball has been passed to you, okay? Of course, you follow the rules that are involved in a netball game. Of course, we'll look at the rules that are involved there. So shooting, this is where it involves on how you are going to score the ball. Then receiving. When someone is passing the ball to you, how should you receive that ball? So we are saying receiving, involves on how you are going to catch the ball. As it is passed on to you, how are you going to receive it? There is a skill in that one. So the other one, landing. Sometimes when you are moving with the ball in netball, it will determine on how your legs, your foot is going to land. So for landing, we can say it involves on your foot. How are you going to stand as you receive the ball? So basically, these are the skills that are involved in a netball game. Now let's talk about the rules. The rules that are involved in a netball game. The rules in a netball game. Maybe anyone to tell us some of the rules, that are involved in a netball game. So the first rule is that you are not allowed to hold the ball, for more than 3 seconds. So catching the ball or holding the ball. Holding the ball for more than 3 seconds is not allowed. So the first rule that you need to know and have in mind as you play this interesting game, you need to understand that not to say holding the ball for more than 3 seconds is not allowed. Okay? Then the second rule, we can say do not, or we can say kicking the ball. Kicking the ball in a netball game is not allowed. In football, we said you can use legs as you kick the ball, but when you use your hands in football, then you'll be, banned, or you'll be, given something, of course, to do with the rules that we discussed. But in netball, kicking is not allowed. Then the other rule we can talk about is that no body contact with another player is allowed, or we can say no body contact No body contact with another player. Another player. Then the fourth rule we need to understand is that do not run with the ball. All right? So I'll use this space. Do not run. Do not run. Do not run with the ball. So in a netball game, we are saying running while you are still holding the ball is not allowed. So basically, these are the rules that we need to have in our minds as we play this game. So now, before we go to now look at something now to apply, that is during the exercise, it is important that we go through, certain things that we are talking about today and a netball game. So with me on the chart, there are things to summarize everything so that even as you watch, you need to take note of something. So at first we began describing a netball game. We said a netball game, a netball, or we can say netball is a game played by two teams. Okay? We say netball is a game played by two teams of 7 players on each side of the team. This is where we say if the first team is having 7 players, okay, if the other team is having 7 players, also the other team will have the same, meaning all the players in a netball game, they add up to 14 players. Okay? So sometimes you may be questioned to say how many players are supposed to play the netball game altogether. You say 14 players. Then sometimes you may be questioned to say how many players are on one side or one team of a netball game. You just go for 7 players. So we are saying it is a game played on a court. Remember, in football, we said football is played in an area or on an area which is called a pitch. Now, for netball game, it is called a court. So netball is played, on a court, and it is controlled by an umpire in 60 minutes. That is in an hour, just 1 hour. Now, we also looked at skills in netball. Skills in netball, we are saying we have number 1, passing. This involves throwing the ball to another player. This is where now it is also important that we look at some of the passes that are used in netball. The first one is called overhead. The first one is called overhead. So that's the first pass which is used in netball. We are saying the first pass is called overhead. Okay? Overhead. Then the second pass is called bounce. Sometimes if you want to, pass the ball to another person, you may bounce it, okay, until it reaches the person you want to give the ball to. Then the third pass is called chest pass. Chest pass. So these are the 3 passes that are used in a netball game. So we are saying passing involves throwing the ball to another player. In what ways or how many types of passes would you use as you pass the ball to another person? We are saying number 1, overhead. Number 2, bounce. Number 3, chest pass. Then we also looked at another one, another skill in netball, which is shooting. Shooting involves scoring the ball. We are saying shooting involves scoring the ball. Then we also say receiving is also another skill that is involved in a netball game. So we are saying receiving involves catching the ball. Okay? Receiving involves catching the ball. Then we say also landing is among the skills used in netball, where it will determine on how you are going to land to do with the foot or feet. So now, this is where now it is important also to look at the rules. The rules that are used in a netball are, number one, do not run with the ball. While catching the ball or holding the ball, you're not supposed to run with it. Immediately when you receive it, without taking more than 3 seconds, you pass it to another person. Then the other one, we are saying kicking the ball is not allowed. Kicking the ball in netball is not allowed. Then the other one, no body contact with another player. You need just to play this game freely without holding each other. So this is where now the lesson ends. Now, I want you to apply something in the exercise that I'm going to write on the board. So you can get your book and write the questions so that you answer. Remember to present your work in a good and attractive handwriting. Well, so these are the questions that I want you to answer based on what I was explaining. So number one, how many players are in a netball game altogether? So I want you to mention or to tell me the number of the players that play a netball game. So how or who controls the netball game? Who controls the netball game? Then number three, mention any 2 rules in a netball game. Mention any 2 rules in a netball game. Number 4, list 3 passes used in netball. You list 3 passes used in netball. Number 5, the last question says, how long does a netball game last? How long does a netball game last? So well, today this is where we need to end. So make sure you answer all the questions. You have been with me, Teacher Ian, who is teaching grade 6, and you have been with me in Expressive Arts. So good luck, bye-bye.